Greetings, my Christmas geeks. It's that time of year again where we talk about Christmas movies. It's my first video for our Christmas countdown. No, I'm not going to do 25 movies, but I just wanted to look at a film that I recently watched again, The Santa Claus.
Santa?
The Santa Claus.
Disney Plus has brought back the world of Scott Calvin as Santa Claus in The SantaClauses. I haven't seen it yet, but we'll probably stick it on over the holidays with my family. But I thought I'd go back to watch the original. Now, what got me about this film is that I'm unsure if it didn't start off as a horror film, because it focuses on the body horror of turning into Father Christmas. There are several scenes that wouldn't be lost in a horror comedy, but at the same time, it follows the 90s trope of a workaholic dad who can't communicate with his kid. And his ex-wife is remarried to a nice but quite annoying person. And this is a trope from the 90s. And I can list a few of those films. There's Liar Liar. Hook as well, minus the divorce bit. He's a workaholic dad who turns out to be Peter Pan. And you've got Mrs. Doubtfire, which, 007 is the new boyfriend. So you can't get any better than that, can you? And even looking at that, I'd say Mrs. Doubtfire probably has a lot in common with this film. There's a lot, alright? But this one is set at Christmas. Now, I have no problem with the Santa Claus logistics, because as we all know, Santa, or as I call him, Father Christmas, is real. I met him last year. Time control is mentioned in the film in a throwaway line as to how he's able to deliver all the presents and gifts to the children of the world. That's fine. It's one aspect of the world that we aren't supposed to know. We know he does it because it happens every year. The presents are always under the tree. But we're not supposed to know how. And that's what I like about it. The idea that when you put on the coat, the Santa Claus jacket, you become Santa Claus. Because he's more of a thing than a person. Almost like he's a spell or a curse which transfers from person to person who signs in to the Santa Claus contract. It's an interesting premise, and for all the kids watching, it's quite a thing to watch. Santa falling off the roof to his death. You've got to admit that the filmmakers took a punt, and they got away with murdering Santa within the first half hour of the film. It's mental. And did you know the original beginning of the film saw Scott Calvin shoot Santa, essentially murdering Santa Claus, and then donning the red suit? You've got to remember, this is a Disney film, and luckily Bob Iger said no. And now, you know Christmas movies. So, the premise for The Santa Claus, written by Leo Benvenuti and Steve Rudnick, is directed by John Pasquin. And it's quite a clever film. It takes the idea that Santa is a role that exists, but it doesn't matter who is in the suit. You become Santa Claus. The first Christmas Scott has as Santa is pretty much done without him trying. He then makes his way to the North Pole and sleeps it off. And then the film is a countdown to the next Christmas, where he has to become Santa Claus.
You put on the suit, you're the big guy.
What if I don't buy into this Santa Claus thing?
Then there would be millions of disappointed children around the world.
And this is where the body horror comes from. Uncontrollable weight gain, fast-growing beard hair that is turning white, and a heartbeat that is the unmistakable sound of Jingle Bell. The body horror is played for laughs, but it's like a frightening thing-style entity that takes over your body, and you become the holly jolly Santa Claus. Add to that the potential murder of the original Santa, either from death by roof or being shot. I'd argue that the original idea was a horror concept, where the spirit of Santa Claus takes over your body, jumping from person to person like a symbiote style curse. There's loads of ex-Santa Claus bodies lying around in an interesting premise, and I reckon, given a slight change, it would be a very interesting horror film. I'll have to write that down. It's funny too, because no one in this world believes in Santa Claus. Yet, there is a Santa, as we all know. We can't be sure what happens. The adults laugh, scoff, and are just completely unbelieving of the whole thing. Yet, there is a Santa leaving gifts under their tree. What happens is it mass mental block out of Father Christmas? No one can believe in magic, even though we see it is real. Or is Scott Calvin literally having a mental breakdown and we're just seeing it through his eyes? So this all goes down to the whole adult world being under a spell or believing not to believe in Santa. It's mental. And a couple more points toward it being a horror movie. It's the undercover elves are there from the beginning. We see them before Christmas Eve. They're our undercover elves throughout the film. And they seem to be watching Scott Calvin from the beginning. But what I want to talk about is how the original Santa Claus may not have been a very good Santa Claus. And how many stories there are of the adult characters not receiving the presents they wanted when they were young. Judge Reinhold's character does not believe in Santa from 3 years old, the idiot. And it's down to him not receiving the whistle that he wanted when he was 3. That must mean he was either a very bad boy at 3 years old and received coal, or whatever they received. Did he receive nothing? I can't remember. Or Santa Claus made a mistake. But other than the murder, the creepy brain-changing spell to the whole world, and the body horror, The Santa Claus is quite a good and entertaining film. It's one of those Disney films that seem to slip through the censorship cracks, that veer away from the Disney kid-friendly formula. It pushes the boundaries of adult kid friendly. And it's funny, as I actually haven't shown my kids this at all. But I'm not sure if they've seen it, and I wouldn't go out of my way to show it to them. Maybe I will this year. But yeah, The Santa Claus is quite an entertaining film, and I'm going to have to watch the sequels before I watch the series. So I'm going to give it 3 candy canes out of 5. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of The Santa Claus. Is it a rewatchable film that you watch every year for Christmas? Or is it something that you watch once and then just forget about? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time for another Christmas movie. Thank you for watching. Merry Christmas.